Okay, so today I'm going to talk about this book. The name of the book is Tuesdays with Morrie. This is my first time making a book review video. It was more difficult than I thought. Like my thoughts were all over the place, but after many hours later, I'm finally able to make it. I'll try to give a neutral opinion. It was neither amazing nor a bad book. I had this book for 2 years and I'm finally able to read it. Here it's written, the description is like an old man, a young man, and life's greatest lesson. The book is written by Mitch Albom and he's the narrator of the book. The old man is Morrie Schwartz. He was a professor of sociology who doesn't believe in grades. So he used to give A to all the students. And he loves dancing. His personality matches with the subject he's teaching. By the way, this is a real story which took me forever to realize, despite the fact that he keeps talking about OJ so many times in the books. I was like, damn, the author brought real life news to the fiction to make it more authentic. This also doesn't have spoilers or plot twist, as this is a non-fiction book. There is one part where the author unironically says that there are plenty of self-help books on these subjects and plenty of cable TV shows and $90 per hour consultation sessions. America has become Persian bazaar of self-help, as if this is not a self-help book. Morrie at one point get diagnosed with ALS and he has 2 years left to live, and he's going to suffer from this terrible disease where his nerve gets damaged from the leg, starting from his leg, and slowly crawls right up till it reaches his lungs and stops his breathing. What's compelling about this book is that Morrie is not going to live very long, and that gives a lot of weightage to the lessons. Like if I make a video with the same lessons, and it might seem very surface level because most of the time there are rarely any nuance to it, the fact that he's saying these things at that stage in his life is what makes people want to look into the wisdom behind. Throughout the book, he's a very positive person who took every situation into a positive spin. Now, not everybody is like him and not everyone learns the same way. So hearing the same words might not make any difference to some of us. And also, I don't think that there are any lessons in the book that we have not heard, that you have never heard of, but you should still read the book and make your own judgment, as this is a very small book. Even at some point, the author said that he barely kept the lessons in mind and he did the totally opposite of what he learned in his school, from his teacher. He did totally opposite of what he learned from his teacher in school. The author also later said that he became what he loathed as a kid. He also lost contact with Morrie. The one way he got into contact is when he heard the news that Morrie is dying on the freaking TV. Like suddenly he felt the urgency to meet him, and so did a lot of other students who met him, and so did the media who wanted to get a scoop of him. There was even this part where Morrie's colleague thought of him as a weird, quirky person. Obviously, Morrie never cared about it, and that was part of his personality. It made me think that if Morrie lived a normal life and passed away normally, then the author would probably never would have met him before that, or even know about his death, and obviously no book would have been written. On the topic of writing this book was actually Morrie's idea, and the book deal and the advance payment helped a lot in Morrie's treatment of the disease and the care he was getting. Although the story is narrated as a story about Morrie and his teachings, I want to point out that the author Mitch Albom should also be appreciated for visiting his teacher every week while having a job, right? Even after meeting him 20 years later. On top of that, seeing your favorite teacher crumbling day by day must be devastating for him, right? In my experience, people don't really want to deal with old and sick people unless it's their parents, and sometimes even then it becomes a pain for them. Like I can only imagine how painful it would have been for him. The first time when Morrie learned that he has this disease, he was shocked when he realized that nothing in his surrounding has changed. Like what he said here, shouldn't the world stop? Don't they know what has happened to me? I'm a little surprised that it took him this long to realize that nobody cares, people moves on, life goes on, everything continues as if nothing happened, nothing is changed. After that, he thought to himself that he has two choices. Do I wither up and disappear, or do I make the best of my time left? So while attending a funeral, he got this idea to arrange a living funeral, where it's like a funeral only that he is alive. He's still alive, so that he can hear people say good things about him. Throughout the story, we get to see Morrie's body crumble under the disease and how he still managed to keep his positive outlook throughout the story. I just want to point out that his life is incredibly privileged, with overwhelming support from his family, students, strangers, which he acknowledges as well. Most time when people are going through tough times, being sick at old age, are probably not having such advantages or care to even have that level of positivity. While this was happening, we get to hear a little bit about the author's life. He tried a bunch of stuff and nothing was working until he took a bachelor's in journalism and he became a sports writer. In this period, he did all the rich people stuff like buying a house, buying cars. Like in short, in his own words, I made more money than I had ever figured to see. After meeting once, they decided to meet each other every Tuesday, and Morrie is supposed to give him lessons. The story is great till this part. We get to learn about Morrie's past, a little bit about the author in his school days. But after that, there are 14 chapters with lessons, and it's just reading like a textbook that is trying to teach you like moral and ethical values. Given all of that, I would still like to share the parts that I find interesting. Like for example, in the second day, Morrie's take on feeling sorry for himself is that everybody should have a dedicated time for self-pity, and it should be like for a few minutes that where they can cry, they can think how bad their life is going on, right? And then after that they should move on to do other things, because it's not worth wasting time on self-pity even if the situation is worse than ever. Like I would say sometimes making fun of the situation, at least it works for me, because it made me realize that maybe it's not the worst situation after all. Like each person has their own coping mechanisms, but drowning on self-pity never makes anything better. It might even make things worse. When it comes to regrets, Morrie thinks that we are consumed with thoughts like family, career, having enough money, paying mortgage, fixing the car. But we rarely ask the question, is this all? Is this all I want? Is something missing? We're supposed to ask these questions to figure out if that's the only thing we want to do in our lives, or is there something else that we want in our lives. It's much better to figure out this answer and want just that, instead of just waking up one day and suddenly realizing and contemplating whether we chose the correct path. Earlier we can act upon it. Obviously there is no timeline for these things, and we might have to figure out multiple times in our lives. At a very young age, he realized what he wanted as a career. Like Morrie's father, who used to work for a factory, took him there when he was young to get him a job. He didn't get the job there. He hated the place there and made a vow that he would never do work that exploited someone else, and he would never make money off of sweat of others. Once you learn to die, you learn how to live. Most of us walk around as if we're sleepwalking. We really don't experience the world fully because we're half asleep, doing things we automatically think we have to do. When we face death, we tend to focus only on essentials and strip away all the unnecessary things from our life. Most people realize that when they're dying, but it's good to think about it early on, so that we can focus only on the important things instead of focusing on all the stupid things, like because we're going to die anyways. When it comes to emotions, oftentimes we suppress them, whether it's fear, pain, or loneliness. His approach is turn on the faucet, wash yourself with the emotion, watch it as it is. You can say to yourself, alright, it's just fear. I don't have to let it control me. For loneliness as well, you let go, you let the tears flow. You say to yourself, that was my moment with loneliness. I'm not afraid of feeling lonely, but now I'm going to put that aside and experience other emotions in the world. It's going to affect you, but that's okay. It's a thing that's supposed to happen. It's supposed to be like that, but don't hold on to it, just let it go. Lots of young people used to meet Morrie and talk about their struggles. He talks about how we focus too much on being young, but according to him, being young is a constant struggle of how life is treating you miserably. They feel inefficient with what they do, and constant battle of trying to figure out who is manipulating, who is trying to sell things, or like the shortcuts to become more successful, more attractive, more wealthy in short period of time. The author rebutted with asking that, then why do people want to go back to being young? So what Morrie said is that signifies unfulfilled lives. If your life is fulfilled, then you want to do more, see more, and move forward instead of trying to go back. He even said that all young people who are battling with getting older, all of these people are going to be unhappy if they keep thinking about that. It's going to happen to all of us anyhow. So there's no point of battling with getting older. We're going to die eventually, so it doesn't matter what we tell ourselves. On the topic of money, he talks about how we are brainwashed to keep wanting more things, and it's a never-ending bit, because that helps consumerism. For example, if you start saving and spend thoughtfully, it might shock the capitalist overlords. That's all. They all want you to spend on useless stuff and keep getting poorer. I'm just going to read the paragraph where he said those things. We got a form of brainwashing going on in our country. Do you know how they brainwash people? They repeat something over and over, and that's what we do in this country. Owning things is good, more money is good, more property is good, more commercialism is good, more is good, more is good. We repeat it and have it repeated to us over and over until nobody bothers to think otherwise. The average person is so fogged up by all this, he has no perspective on what's really important anymore. So that's what he tried to tell us when it comes to money. And then when it comes to culture, he talked about building subculture instead of following rigidly what the culture says or enforces upon us. Not necessarily disobey the rules of society or our community or anything. Like, just don't believe all the conditions that society sets for us, like to look a certain way, being embarrassed at certain things, or having certain things, being married at a certain age. Like, we should look at our potential, stretching ourselves to see what we can become, not be confined by what society expects of you, because society has a way to confine us within limits and actively discourages us that might not fit those values. For example, if somebody says you cannot achieve a certain goal, well, they cannot know until you have actually tried that certain thing, right? Many times they would say that you can't do it, when in reality it's just that the person giving the advice, they themselves haven't done the thing in the first place. When it comes to forgiveness, there's this quote, forgive yourself before you die, then forgive others. He talks about a closest friend who gifted him a handmade sculpture about him. At some point, his wife, Charlotte, had to go through surgeries, go through serious operation, and his friend and his friend's wife never get in touch with Morrie while he was going through that situation. And on top of that, they knew everything about Morrie and his wife. Very soon, Morrie dropped the relationship, and his friend tried to reconcile with him multiple times over the years, but he rejected him every time. Few years later, his friend died of cancer, and he failed to forgive him. It's his way of saying that forgive your family, friends, because you never know when that you might never get a chance to do that. There are a few chapters like family, marriage, the perfect day, which didn't have anything new or even worth mentioning, so I did not talk about those. I wonder if knowing all of this makes any difference because I don't think it's the knowledge of the thing, of these lessons, that's keeping us from making these mistakes, because we still make those mistakes. I think it's on the individual and how much importance they give on these lessons. Sometimes we do need to hear it again and again as a reminder. In the last chapter, the author was realizing that Morrie has very little time, and there might not be another Tuesday where he can meet Morrie. So he asked what would happen to the next Tuesday when he's passed away. Morrie was like, in those days you can just talk and I will listen, and he died very soon after that. The author kept his promise and went to the cemetery on Tuesdays to talk about his life later on. I would say this is more like a story between a teacher and a student rather than the lessons. Yes, there were lessons in between, but it's more like an emotional journey between them that we are reading. The lessons from Morrie was a little too generic and sound too obvious as something we have heard like a million times. It sounded like what you would hear from your grandparent or someone from that time. Despite that, I like the part where the story went into the backstory of Morrie's childhood and his relationship with his brother and his father. I was expecting more such stories from his life and the author's life as well, instead of these bite-sized lessons. Like I would like to draw my own interpretations instead of having them handed to me. If you have watched till now, thanks for watching. Like the video, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel.